Hello. I'm Martin Houston, and this is Miss Lindsey Nance. I'm with Realty One Group. She's with Movement Mortgage, and we're so excited to be bringing you our first edition of a first-time home buyer, or maybe you may be an investor that's looking to purchase a home. But we're going to walk you through that entire process. Me on the agent side or on the mortgage side. Just a couple of things. Once again, my name is Martin Houston, and I'm with Realty One Group, and myself and my team with Realty One Group Legends would love the opportunity to work with you through the home buying process. I tell people that owning a home is one of the greatest accomplishments and dreams, and that's why we called it "Are You Ready to Start Your Dream?" That's why we named it that when it came to this particular seminar, because we wanted to make sure that people understand it is a dream for so many, but the information you're going to get tonight can help that dream become a little easier to accomplish and make happen. So when it comes to the buying process, I don't want to take too much of Lindsey's thunder. She's going to, like I said, walk you step by step through it. But I will tell you, in this market, in this time, I would advise you, instead of just running around trying to find a house, work with a professional. There's a reason that we go through the process of getting licensed and learning our craft so that we can help you get the best home. Just because it looks good on the outside doesn't mean that it's all right on the inside. And having an agent, whether it's a listing agent or a buyer agent, both of those are important. But in this scenario, we're talking more from the buyer side. We can help you while you're at work doing what you do. If you have an agent, we can go through and look at all of the listings. We can do all of the shopping for you, and then pipe down that list so that you're a lot more efficient and you're only looking at the homes that meet that criteria that you have designed or desire, I should say. And that's why I would tell you, before you ever go shopping for a home, Lindsey, I would tell them, make sure you know what you want.
Absolutely.
And some of that is about need, and some of it is about priority, and some of it is about want. But have a really good idea, and she's going to talk to you about that
And
pre-approval thing.
know that price range,
That's our,
because
that's
that is
our,
the biggest thing. That is the thing that people get, they fall in love with that price that is just that house that's a little over their budget. So
yeah,
that is definitely the biggest thing that we want to make sure that we guide you guys in the right direction.
I spoke to a group of high school students on yesterday. At the time of this recording, it was yesterday. And when I was talking to them, I said, before you go get that house or look for that house and fall in love with it, make sure it's a house that's in your price range, because nothing can be more, I guess there are some things that can be more devastating, but it's really devastating if you fall in love with the house, go to the mortgage company or financial institution,
And it's
and
not
they
in
say,
that budget.
and you can't get it done. So
That's too funny. I have I did the same thing with a group of high school students, but we had them put down their budget, like what they were gonna, when they became, adults and they were gonna make a house payment, how much they were gonna pay, and what their, income was gonna be, and whether it was gonna be a barndominium house or a single family house, whatever. And they were sticker shock, like, what? If I'm only going to make this amount of money and my house payment's going to be this amount of money. So it's definitely a learning curve for all of us. I don't care what age you are, to kind of know those, because we think one thing, but it's usually something different.
Yeah, and I'll give this information again. I'm going to get ready to pass it over to Lindsey, and I'll may interject a little bit as we go through, but she's going to lead through the majority of this. But if you're looking to work with a professional agent and with a professional team, you need to just remember this email, martinhoustonrealestate@gmail.com, martinhoustonrealestate@gmail.com. If you can't remember that, remember Realty One Group Legend, Realty One Group Legends, and you can call us at our office and ask for me, and myself and our team will be glad to work with you on helping your dream come true. Lindsey.
Well, thank you, Martin. First of all, I just want to thank everyone for being here tonight online as well. We're going to just talk about the home buying process. That is the thing that I feel that especially a lot of first-time home buyers or people just looking to downsize that hasn't done the process in a very long time, they are a little bit scared of what that process looks like and what it entails. So I'm going to go over tonight just kind of the simple process and some qualifications for some different loan products that are out there that would meet first-time home buyer investors. Maybe it's your third home that can help that. So the first thing that I get asked is, I want to go look at this house. I know what I want. I want a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. I don't want my payment more than $1,000. Well, in reality, that's going to be hard to find. We may find a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, but so what I tell most people in starting the process is we need to take a deep dive into your financials. We need to look at your basic information. The main things that we're looking at is we're going to look at your credit history over the last 2 years. We're going to look at where you've worked for the last 2 years. A lot of people think that they have to be on their job for 2 years to qualify for a mortgage. That used to be the thing years ago. That's not the case anymore. So a lot of people think they can't buy because they haven't been on the job for 2 years. So that is not the case. But we are looking for a 2-year work history, and we're also looking for a if maybe you were in college and then you just now started working in your career for the last year, that's okay too. Or maybe you have a job offer letter going into your career because you just graduated. We can work with that as well. So we're looking for a 2-year work history, 2-year or school history. So whatever the combination is. And believe it or not, there's a lot of earlier generations starting to buy. So just closed one recently that just graduated high school a year ago. So, don't think you're too,
talk to those high schoolers.
Absolutely. Don't think you're too young to do it. And two, to prepare yourself, whether it's now or, 2 years from now, go ahead, let's do the application. Let's come up with what my favorite word is, a plan of action, because we don't know what we don't know. Yeah. So the application, we're going to want your name, your date of birth, your social security number, where you've lived at for the last 2 years, where you've worked or went to school for the last 2 years. Once you put all of that information into our online portal we do applications in person, we do them over the phone, we do them online, whatever is convenient for you as a buyer. We are here to make this process as seamless and simple as possible. So once we get that information, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to pull the credit report. And so credit is probably the most challenging thing that we see because we're not educated on the high school level. I think they're doing better now, but I know my generation, we were not educated on how to start credit, how to prepare credit, and when you got credit, what to do with it, right?
Yeah, and that was actually, ironically, talking to the group yesterday. That's one of the areas that I also do is financial wellness for schools. And I was telling them, you need to start building your credit now. Don't wait till you're ready to buy the house. Start building your credit today.
That's right. So, and there's simple ways to do that as well. I mean, mom, dad can add you as an authorized user on a credit card. Go to your local bank, do a secured credit card, put some money in your savings account, secure it, do a credit card, put gas on it, pay it off every month. You don't have to run credit every month, but we need to start because that is the way that you generate that credit score. And there are different credit score qualifications that we'll talk about on some of the different products. But a couple of things as far as the home buying process, there's, you're going to hear different, what we call mortgage language. So, we're going to have down payment. down payment, if you're doing a loan that needs down payment, that is going to be the money that you put down, that you bring to closing, that is going to offset your purchase price and the loan amount that you're actually qualifying for. And then you're going to have, most loans have what's called private mortgage insurance. And that's a weird situation because you have home insurance and then there's private mortgage insurance. So what private mortgage insurance is honestly, it's a default insurance. In the event that you were to default on your loan, you would, the lender or the financial backing, they have kind of, it's almost like life insurance on your loan. So there's no way around that for the most part. There are a couple loan products that don't require it, but for the most part, unless you put down 20%, you're going to have that private mortgage insurance on your loan. And then you're going to also hear us talk about debt to income ratio. That's a big one as well. So debt to income, what that is, you would take your gross qualifying income is what we would look at. So if you make $60,000 a year, your gross qualifying income is going to be $5,000 a month. And so if your mortgage payment is $1,000, then we're going to take, and that's the only debt that you have, we're going to take that $1,000 divided by your gross income, and that's going to be what your debt to income ratio is.
In that scenario, they have a 20% debt to income. What's the magic number?
So for each loan product that we'll talk about, that they have every loan product that you are looking at, and when you do one application, just one, we're going to look at several different loan products. We're going to go through, X, you don't qualify for this one, or you do qualify for this one. So we're going to look and see, and I'll kind of run through those things. But the next big definition that you're going to hear up front when you're getting ready to write that contract is earnest money. You need to have that money. So as you're starting to prepare for the home buying process, you're going to need some money up front. So you need to start putting back and saving, and income tax is right around the corner. So a lot of people use that to start the process. But earnest money, that is a sum of money, typically that's anywhere from 1% of the loan amount to 3%. But that is money that you are putting down that you will get credit for at the closing day. You're going to get credit for that money that you put down. But what that is a sum of money that you are saying, okay, I want this house. I want you to take this house off of the market so that I can purchase it. And in the event that I decide not to purchase it for your time being off the market, here is the money that's securing that. So that is just telling that the seller that you are serious about this process. Escrow, that's another big one. Escrow typically is done on every loan. If you put 20% down, you don't typically have to do it on a conventional loan. But that is where your homeowner's insurance and your property taxes and your private mortgage insurance, it's almost like a mortgage savings account. Yeah. So that goes, part of your monthly payment every month will go into that escrow account. So after you've been in the home for at least a year, that money will, say your homeowner's insurance comes to you, it pulls it out of there instead of you having to come up with a large lump of sum there. And then going into, a fixed rate, mostly everybody's doing fixed rates. You don't see adjustable rates that much anymore, but they are out there. But employment verification, that's another question, another thing during the pre-approval process after you complete the application that we're going to talk about. And that's where the lender is verifying your employment. Just because you tell us that you've been on that job for 2 years, we've got to physically verify that with that employer. We've got to break down the types of pay that you may receive. There's averages and qualifications that we have to go. So know that we have to verify everything. I tell people as a joke, we're going to verify everything but your blood type. Okay, so don't get offended. Just know that, this is a 30-year commitment. We want to make sure everything is.
You just said something, don't get offended. It's interesting how is such a daunting thing. A lot of people are intimidated because they feel like, I mean, what you just said, we're going to verify, but that it's not about the individual. Everyone goes through that
That's right.
process.
It's the process, you
It's the
know?
process.
And I tell people sometimes I'm like, you know, but, and sometimes we get information and that opens up another question. So then we got to go back. So it is a process, but it is very, very important to do that process up front before you start going under contract and getting that house. Because once you go under contract, that process goes really quick. I mean, we get you under contract, typically you're in your home within 30 days.
Yeah.
So you're ready to move.
And from the agent side, a lot of agents don't want to. They may show you a house or two if you're not pre-approved, but they're not gonna be all in until they know that you're all in. And part of being all in on both sides is going out and getting pre-approved. And that agent now, because if he's prioritizing and he has 5 people he's working with, and then you come along and you're not pre-approved, every time he's looking for a house, if your dream house matches someone else or is close, of course he's going to show that. He's going to show that one to the one that's pre-approved first. So just make sure.
Well, and most of the cases too, I mean, agents typically, a seller doesn't want to see an offer unless they have a pre-approval letter attached to it. So it's, it just makes the process smoother and quicker. And your process, I promise you, if you do a pre-approval up front, not a lot of big online lenders, they'll just take what you say and roll with it. And then you go under contract and then you're trying to dig and figure out how to get this stuff. So it's important to partner with the right people that's going to. Here in Tuscaloosa, I mean, we have some great lenders. I feel like it's almost like churches on every corner. So we can definitely take care of you, and there's some great lenders in our area. But just not to get off script, because I can talk all day long about that, but let's talk about some of the, so we've got your application at this point. We've taken it, we've looked at the credit. We're going to talk about the different loan products that may be out there for you. So the most popular for a seller is going to be a conventional loan. A conventional loan, you are typically looking, there are some loan products that are 100% that are conventional, but as a first-time home buyer, there's 3% down payment. Maybe you've owned a home in the last 3 years. There's a 5% down payment, and you can, keep going down as much as you want. But typically for a conventional loan, you're looking, if you don't put 20% down, you're looking about a 680 credit score is what we're seeing the most propelling to the rate and what's the private mortgage insurance and that kind of stuff. And the conventional loan is more appealing to the seller because there's different guidelines when it comes to the home inspections, the appraisals, that kind of stuff. A conventional loan is only looking for safety and hazard issues. They're not going to nitpick if that wall is missing a little piece of paint or anything like that. But typically, you are looking at a 680 or higher credit score without putting 20% down on a conventional loan. FHA is a big one right now. FHA has very competitive interest rates. They do have what's called upfront funding, PMI, that's rolled into the loan with you. You don't have to bring that to closing, but it is there. But FHA will review as low as 580 credit score. So that one, if you've had some past credit history, or maybe you have A+ credit, but maybe your debt to income is high, FHA will allow you to go up to 57% DTI.
Oh, wow.
57. So now keep in mind, in DTI, we're only looking for the things that are reporting on your credit. So we're not looking at that child care, at that insurance, at that car insurance, life insurance. We're not looking at anything. We're only the tie. We're not looking at that. We're only looking at the debt that's reporting on your credit report. So, so we could go up to 57%. So you may have A+ credit, but your debt to income, because Lord, we know those car payments, they are something serious right now. But those, you can go up to a higher debt to income and still be able to get into the price range of a home that you want to. USDA, that is 100% financing. You only can own one property at one time with USDA. So you can't own a home and then decide you want to go do a USDA. It is one home at one time only. But it is 100% financing. But the property itself has to be in a rural area. So, which...
Now, do I get to determine what the rule is? That something that's determined by them?
No, so there is what's called USDA eligibility map. You can Google it. US buyers can Google it. You plug in the address and it'll come up green or it come up red. It tells you if the property, 69 South, you think is not rural, but it has a lot of property in that area. Melville, Coker, Cottondale, kind of the outskirts of town is considered, USDA. So that's 100% financing, has very low private mortgage insurance, but they do like your debt to ratios to be below 45%. So you've got conventional 50%, FHA 57%, and USDA, they like it below 45%. Now, FHA and USDA, you can do what's called a manual underwrite. And that means that maybe you got some credit challenging, stuff in the past, less than a year old. We could maybe, and they lower, so USDA would be lower than like 41% at that point. So there's some different scenarios there. A VA loan is for veterans. So you do have to be qualified through the VA to be considered eligible for VA financing. So you got to have your certificate of eligibility that shows us that, hey, you are eligible. You could be reserves, retired, active, those kind of things. But that is 100% financing, and that also can go as low as 580 credit score. A jumbo loan. A jumbo loan is a loan that is over the conforming limits. 2025, we do have our conforming limits being increased. So that's well over $700,000 now. And we do also do reverse mortgages. So if you are a loved one that you may know that is 62 years of age or older, and maybe they want to go buy their, retirement home at the beach, and they just want to do a reverse mortgage, get paid to live in their house, pull the equity out and go buy that, vacation home. That happens a lot. So we do also have that option as well.
And while you're transitioning, if you have a question, you can ask it. And if you're on the live stream, I didn't say that up front. And if you're on the live stream, you can type it in, and at the conclusion, we'll go back and we'll reach back out to you and answer those questions.
Absolutely, yes, for sure. And I didn't give you my information, but my cell number is 205-454-4988. You can look me up on social media. My number is all over it. Feel free to call, text, whenever you need me. With any question, there's no question that is crazy. I tell people all the time, I don't know your job and I don't expect you to know mine. So just kind of keep that, in mind. If you have any questions at all. So sometimes people don't like to ask questions, when people are around or like, hey. So feel free to call.
Even though everybody else probably has the same question that you have.
That's right, absolutely. So we kind of talked about connecting with your real estate agent, connecting with the loan officer. We kind of went over that, scenarios, getting pre-approved, getting the real estate agent. Those are the kind of the key in of getting the process started. Once we have you pre-approved, we're ready to start going shopping. So at that point, I would connect with Martin and say, hey, Martin, I just got, Sam Joe pre-approved. Based on his situation, we need to look at maybe an FHA loan up to $300,000. We need the sellers. We didn't talk about selling pay closing costs. Closing costs are expenses that it costs to do the loan. And that could be rate buy down, that's going to be a title, attorney fees, all of those things. And you either need to have the money to bring to the closing table, or we'll make Martin do a little bit of work and have him negotiate the seller to pay that amount at closing on your behalf as the buyer. So with that being said, say that the closing costs are $8,000, you would then have to either bring that to the table, or in the contract, it could say the seller will pay up to $8,000 in, Mary Jo's, closing costs. So that way Mary Jo only has to worry about bringing her down payment. I mean, we have some people that get money back at closing, their earnest money, not have to bring anything and get into a home. So it's very important to work for your lender and your agent to work side by side to make sure that they are negotiating in the best interest of you. So after we've got you pre-approved, we're ready to sit down, get you with Martin. We've told Martin, okay, we need all the closing costs paid. We need to go FHA. So when Martin's starting to set up your profile, I guess, to kind of start sending you some houses, or you start, okay, I'm going to start going online. I'm going to start looking. I'm ready now. We're going to tell you kind of stay away from clicking on houses online, because that's going to get you connected with other people and you already have your person, right? So, we're going to tell you to kind of stay away from that. Go through Martin's website to look at any houses that you want to look at. And we're going to tell you, do not apply for any new credit unless it's just an absolute mess. Do not max out your credit cards. Try to keep bank accounts, income, credit is the same as long as you can, unless it's just, life happens, we get it. But you need to then at that point reach out to your loan officer and say, hey, I'm sorry, my car died, I had to go get a new car, because that could affect your pre-approval and what purchase price you need to be looking at based on, the qualifications. So we're going to tell you to kind of stay away from, doing anything at that point. Once we pull your credit, it's good for 120 days. A credit inquiry, that's one of the biggest things I get. Well, I don't want to do it because I don't want a credit inquiry on my credit. A credit inquiry only affects your credit for 90 days. So when we pull your credit, we have 120 days that we could use that same report. And a credit inquiry only stays on your credit for 90 days. So in the event that it takes you longer than 120 days to find your dream home, my team, we are not going to just go and re-pull your credit. We're going to follow up with you, let you know, hey, the documents have expired, the credit's expired. Has anything changed? If you tell us no, we're gonna trust, because we've got that relationship, that that's the case. And when you do find the home that you're wanting to make an offer on, then we will, at that point, re-pull your credit. So that way it's good for another 120 days.
A couple of quick things on the shopping that people sometimes, it can be almost as bad as falling in love before the pre-approval. And this comes from my insurance background, because I've seen people be in love with the house and then they find out that it's located more than 1,000 feet from a fire hydrant with a certified fire department. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden their insurance cost is through the roof. So when you're shopping, you need to make sure that the agent understands that the location of the house, it may be the perfect house, but if it's not within a certain distance, proximity to that fire hydrant, you're going to pay more for the insurance for the entirety of the time you own the house. Also, you need to verify if it's in the flood zone. And you think about insurance, and people don't think about this. Whatever your regular insurance is, your flood insurance is probably going to be that exact same amount, potentially more. So say your insurance is $1,000. Your $250,000 house will cost you $280, because you'll pay for that extra flood insurance for the entirety of the ownership of that home. So when you're shopping, get your dream home, kind of know locations, but also make sure you and or your agent is aware of the proximity of that fire department so that you have that, you don't get that ding on your insurance, and also flood insurance.
Absolutely. And that's another thing, like, again, that rolls back into that debt to income. Like, so let's just say that I've, pre-approved you for $200,000 and that's at your max.
Mm-hmm.
So I've just quoted roughly estimated, $1,800 for homeowners insurance and roughly $900 for property taxes. If you go to a property that's not homesteaded, that's going to be double taxes. Maybe it needs flood insurance. So then maybe you don't qualify at that point for $200,000.
Right.
So we need to communicate. And I always tell all of my clients, once we get you pre-approved, you find that house you want to go look at, you text myself or my team and say, hey, I'm going to look at, 123 Main Street. Can you run some numbers on it? Because at that point, we can go in, we can run some numbers. We can go ahead and have that in yours and your agent's inbox before you ever step foot onto that property so that you know what those expenses look like. And when you walk in the door, you can determine, okay, I can see myself paying $1,500 for this house. And I'm comfortable with that. That's going to help you feel what you're needing before you ever go and fall in love with that property. And keep your employment. Don't go swapping employment without talking to your loan officer once you're pre-approved. Don't let something go to collections. Don't, anything like that. Stay paying things on time. And then, we start the home search. Location is going to be key. Where do you want to purchase at? Because, the agents, you tell them, hey, I want to be in Cottondale, but then you're sending them properties in Foster's. Like, that's a big difference. The school zones, price ranges, that kind of stuff. So go ahead and start, as you're thinking about starting this process, go ahead and start, maybe a 20-mile radius of, okay, I want to be in this area. That's going to help your agent. That's going to help your location to find that property. And then as you start going and viewing those properties, start paying attention. And this is where your agent, I think, is probably going to help you more as y'all start walking, because you're just going to be so excited. Hey, I'm pre-approved. I love this house. This house has got it all. But your agent's going to be like, hey, the floor's a little crooked over there, or, that kind of stuff. So a lot of people are like, I don't need an agent. I can do it myself. Well, they are trained to know. I kind of lost my
you see some of those things, and then the relationships to get that, if there's something that requires professionals and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
those relationships are going
That's
to be there. And the one, the agents and the brokers will have relationships with the people who you can trust.
That's
to
right.
give you the right answer, not just try to get it
right.
done.
And as you're walking through the property, you're looking for water damage. Is there things on the roof? Has there been a roof leak? Is there an odor in the house? You will start thinking of those things, which at first, the first couple of houses, you're probably not, because you're going to be just so excited, right?
Yeah.
But your agent is going to be there to walk you through that. Think about storage. Think about space. Like, how many bedrooms do you want? How many bathrooms? Is closets? Does that matter?
Think about the future.
Yeah, the babies, grandbabies,
And one of the things, this is personal buying experience, 30 years ago. Right? When I was buying my first home, wintertime, didn't think through all of these summer questions and the spring questions, and had a couple of things that when spring and summer came around, I was in a situation where I had some unexpected expenses in year one, because I purchased a home thinking, oh, it's beautiful, it's winter. Everything with the heat is working. Not everything with the AC was on point.
That's right. Yeah. So we got to kind of think about those. And then again, things that we want you after the pre-approval process, think about closing costs, think about, just fees through the process, homeowners insurance, property taxes, private mortgage insurance. You're gonna have, once you find that house, you're gonna want to get it inspected, right? You're gonna want a professional to come in there and they're going to literally comb that house with, from one side to the other. They're gonna tell you anything and everything about that property, but that does cost money up front. They're not gonna do a job without getting paid up front. So those, depending on the size of the house, I think you're looking anywhere from like $400 to $500. And that's something you're gonna need as soon as you go under contract, because you're gonna have an inspection period that has to be met. So that's what I'm saying. Getting the pre-approval, all of that worked out up front. That way, when you go under contract, you're working with your agent, setting up inspections and working out negotiation of repairs. And, may not be anything big, but it may be something that like, hey, I didn't really like the color of that paint. Maybe I can get a paint allowance, So those are things that can be negotiated. Does that property have an HOA? Some people don't want an HOA. They don't want somebody to tell them if their garbage cart can stay on the side of the road for too long.
Right.
But I personally like an HOA because I don't have to worry about my neighbor junking up his yard because the HOA is going to handle it. So there's things that you don't think about it, especially as a first-time homebuyer, or if you've been in that home for 30 years buying a new home, that you're like, okay, what is an HOA?
And if you've never owned a home, first-time buyer, Lindsey, when you're pre-approving, you briefly mentioned it, but you're kind of approving the top of what they qualify, or is it somewhere in between? And then I guess the question becomes, what happens in that situation? Because each one of these things that are an ongoing expense, they need to be factored into that.
That's right. So the first thing that we do before we ever tell you what you're going to be pre-approved for, the number one thing myself and my team is going to ask you, Ms. Smith, when you think of a mortgage payment, what do you think that payment needs to be based on your budget? Yeah, I see that you're paying $1,000 in rent right now, and Ms. Smith's going to say, I don't want a payment more than $1,200. So we're going to tell Ms. Smith that once we do the pre-approval, we're going to go ahead and figure out what the max pre-approval is for Ms. Smith. And then we're going to know what that number looks like. And it's funny to hear the stories because they'll be like, I want a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, but I want a $1,200 house payment. I'm like, okay. So we're going to talk the numbers in reality. Okay. Right now, honestly, just talking real talk, about $130,000, a purchase price of $130,000 with the escrow, homeowners insurance, property taxes, you're probably about $1,100 a month. So, when you think about that 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage at $130,000, that's not doable. So, keep that, so we're going to tell you what that budget looks like based on the budget that you told us. And then we're going to say, okay, Ms. Smith, let's real talk, okay? I need you to sit down and relook at your budget. And I need you to say, this is what you can, based on the numbers that I see, this is how much you can go up. And this is how much you would need if you went up this much. And I need you to go relook at your budget. And then you go and see what houses are out there at this price range and this price range, or even in the middle, to see what is the best option. Because the last thing that you want in purchasing a home is to be house poor. You're going to hear that story, to be house poor. What that means is that your mortgage payment is so much that you can't even go out to eat, So we want to make sure that, we're not setting you up, for, a year down the road, you're miserable in that new home that you were so in love with because you can't afford to do anything else. So it's our job to just to break it down to you as reality. Once you find that home, you're ready to make an offer. And then that's what, again, we do the happy dance. It's been accepted. We're ready to get it going. You're going to schedule your inspections. We're going to get the home appraised. And so what that means is that the lender has to order through a third-party appraisal company. Appraiser's going to go out there and he's going to look at the area comps and say, okay, this house is worth $200,000. We put an offer at, $195. You've done a good deal. But say that he comes back and says this house is only worth $160 and you offered $170, then guess what? Martin's got to go back to work. He's got to go and renegotiate that price with that seller if it doesn't appraise. And then, sometimes, most of the time, it gets worked out. The seller realizes, it was just overpriced, or maybe they updated way too much for the area.
Right.
So most of the time that gets worked out, and then it's great for you as the buyer because you're getting a better deal than you even thought, right? But that is to protect you, that's to protect the lender, and that's to make sure that you're not overpaying for that property. So through these inspections, we are, at any point, if something comes up upside down, you're like, oh, hold up, this needs a lot more than what, I was going into. At that point, through that inspection period, you can walk away and get your earnest money back if it's due to something not, panning out the way that we thought it should. Then we're going to kind of go through while y'all are doing all of that on the property side, we're doing all your documentation and all of that stuff. The underwriter's nitpicking your bank statements, all of that good stuff. I'll tell you that the biggest thing on bank statements right now is these affirm pays, afterpays. It used to be when they came out, they were only like 4 easy payments. Now they're like 36 payments and, stuff like that. So, and those things, you don't realize they don't report on your credit report. So when we get the bank statements, we're having to kind of skim through to see if there's anything that's not reporting on your credit report that should be reporting on your credit report. So those are things that we are looking. That's why I tell people, try to keep your bank account as clean as possible. So it, makes the process easier. Because if it is more than 10 payments, we have to add it to your debt to income. So,
and one other thing, as the buyer, as you're negotiating and talking through those things, and there's things in the home, make sure that there's conversation in the contract around this stage.
mm-hmm.
Don't fall in love with the fancy chandelier and they plan to take it with them.
That's correct. Yeah.
And so make sure that you're talking through all of those little things. That's why you need to make sure. I know there's a lot of people who they can't buy a home. Let's be real.
Absolutely.
But there are also a lot of things that you can miss out on, pay a little bit more for, or not get something paid for because you don't. But now I would tell you, make sure.
Well, I got a story for that. I got a story for a little bit of everything, but I have a story here. I guess it's been 4 or 5 months ago. We go to closing, and in the contract it says the hot tub is not to stay. Well, that is not what the buyer heard. The buyer did not read that. The buyer did not see that. I mean, they did, but in their mind, they did not. And when the seller was talking about, I'll be back tomorrow to pick up the hot tub, they were like, hold up, wait a minute. That's the whole reason I'm buying the house, was the hot tub. So needless to say, her husband had to go find her a hot tub because she was pretty upset. But it was written in the contract that it was actually additional day to pick up the hot tub, not that it was just going to stay. So that is very, very important, especially as you're walking around the property and, if there's something that's not attached to the house, you have to make sure that you're writing that down.
If you plan to keep it, because
And then once we go to closing, through the processing part, we're getting your insurance locked in. We're getting, those things done. And as buyers and our first time home buyers, or just renters in general, you don't realize, but if you go ahead now and get renter's insurance while you're preparing for the process, that is a discount that you're gonna get on your homeowner's insurance in buying the property. So if you don't have renter's insurance is what, a couple bucks a month.
I mean, you get a policy based on liabilities and different things like that, because it's not just like the personal property, you also want to make sure you get the liability pieces. You can get $10-12.
Yeah, it's not much, so go ahead and get that, and two, it's protecting your stuff in the event something happens.
Right.
But it also helps you, get that discount when you go to get your homeowner's insurance, because, I mean, look, we don't wanna pay more than we have to, right? So I do have these, great, packets that, we were just kind of skimming through. If you want one, feel free to call me, text me, get with Martin, we can get that to you. I do have a couple of, little flyers in here that kind of just go over kind of the roadmap of purchasing a home, kind of how that works, and then the great, list, and on the back of my business cards, you're going to see, kind of the documents that we're looking for in your pre-approval, which is typically your W-2s for the last 2 years or 1099s if you're self-employed, 30 days pay stubs, usually your year-end pay stubs, so the last pay stub that you got for 22 and 23, because it will break down, if you get paid different types of pay, it will break that down on that last pay stub, because your W-2 does not break down the different types of pay that you get. But bank statements, we're looking for anywhere from 2 months to a month. If you're retired, we're looking for award letters to show what that monthly gross, and we'll see it on the bank statements. Pay stubs, tax returns if you're self-employed, or looking to do like a certain type of loan, we may require the actual tax filing. Something I get that a lot of people that's like, hey, I haven't filed my taxes this year. Most loan products don't require filing, proof of filing. So if you have a W-2 and all of that, don't think that you can't buy. I get that question a lot. Like, well, I haven't filed taxes for last year. I did an extension. Most loan products, we don't need the tax filing. We just need the W-2 and verify the income. So a valid driver's license. We need a valid driver's license at least through the closing date. We'll get proof of earnest money, award letter. If you've been divorced and you're paying any child support or alimony or receiving child support or alimony, we're going to need those court documents to back, and we're going to have to show proof that, that person that owes it to you or you are paying, at least for the last 3 months. If you own any other properties, we're going to need the mortgage statements if there's mortgages or homeowners insurance, property taxes. A lot of people, I get this question more than you think. People think they can't purchase if they're in bankruptcy. That's not true. If you're in Chapter 13, maybe you've had a hardship and you had to file bankruptcy, you can still purchase a home. Chapter 13, you have to have made 12 payments inside the bankruptcy agreement, but we can look at an FHA loan with 3.5% down. If you have filed Chapter 7, then you do have a hard 2-year wait period. And then of course there's the do's and the don'ts that we talked about. No new credit, keep paying everything on time, all of that. And this is just kind of a cheat sheet. This is probably one of my favorite ones. It is a cheat sheet of each loan product. It tells you the qualifying. It tells you, if you've had a foreclosure or, anything like that. The FICO scores, that kind of stuff for the different loan products. A loan product that we didn't really talk about that's been really popular, maybe you can't find the house that you want, but you're up for a challenge and you want to we have what's called renovation loans. So that's where you can take an older home, get a licensed contractor, go in there and make it what you want it to do. And those can be done USDA, VA, conventional, FHA. So maybe you can't find what you want, but you found an older home and you want to update it. That is an option as well. Sorry. And then this is just the different loan products that Movement offers, which there is a lot more than this, but these are just our basic ones. And that's pretty much the loan process. Typically, the application will take you about 10 to 15 minutes to fill out, if you're doing it just by yourself. And then for us to review it, my team, we have a standard that once you submit an application, we're going to get back in touch with you within 24 hours. And you're going to know where you stand typically within 24 hours. Now, if you have what's called variable income, and I'm going to have to really, dig in and get information from your employer, it may take a little bit longer, but I'm going to be able to kind of tell you roundabout what we're looking at. So it does not take very long to do the process and get you ready to start shopping.
Tell everybody where they can find you once again.
Yeah, you can find me. I'm at Movement Mortgage. I'm downtown on 8th Street, about 2 blocks behind the Federal Building. Of course, you can always get me at my cell, 205-454-4988. Or you can email me at Lindsey, Lindsey, .Nance, Nance, @movement.com.
All right, and I'm Martin Houston with Realty One Group, and once again, this is Lindsey Nance with Movement Mortgage, and this has been the Are You Ready for That Dream seminar. Once again, Martin Houston, Realty One Group Legends. My cell number is 205-826-1381, 205-826-1381. Best way to communicate with me is text, but also if you're a person that likes email, martinhoustonrealestate@gmail.com. And hey, this has been brought to you by us here, but this is also part of the FinWell Institute, which is, we'll have more things like this coming, as well as I'll be speaking to other topics as well. Once again, thank you so much for your time. Hopefully you find this very helpful. And if you're looking for a mortgage, you need to contact Ms. Lindsey Nance at Movement Mortgage. Or if you're looking to work with a buyer or list, you can reach out to me, martinhoustonrealestate@gmail.com. Thank you and have a blessed night.
Thank you so much.